Quintessential Quintuplets. What a show. What a movie. Oh, I love these characters. I adore these characters and the journey they've been on. Miku's best girl. It's just one of those stories that, because I was waiting so long for the finale to actually happen, because the movie took ages, that when I finally did watch it, there was this empty feeling of like, oh shit, the movie's over, the story's over, I'm never going to see these characters again. It sort of happened similarly when I finished Naruto, because I've watched so many episodes of him. When it was finally over, I was like, now what? But we're not talking about Naruto, we're talking about Quintessential Quintuplets, and why it is peak romance, peak harem, and because it's been on my mind for the last couple of days, I was like, you know what, let's just talk about it. Let's just talk about why I love it and why, if you haven't seen it already, this is a must watch if you love romance anime, because it's definitely up there with some of the greats. But yeah, without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Okay, quick synopsis. There's this guy, his name's Futaro. Brilliant student, the perfect student. He has to be because his family's not well off, so he wants to be reliable and hopefully make money for them, you know? And then come in these 5 girls, quintuplets. They transferred to the school because they failed their previous exam, and their father is now trying to find them a tutor. By some stroke of luck, by the hands of fate working, Futaro happens to take the job, not knowing it's these 5 quintuplets. They meet, that's how the story blossoms. They fall for each other. One of them wins, 4 of them loses. Who's the winner? Who knows? Actually, right before we start, no spoilers until the very end, because there are just 2 scenes that I really wanted to gush about that I can't really gush about without it being spoilers. But majority of the video, no spoilers, very, very light plot points, and yeah, now let's get into it. Okay, first thing that I really love from the get-go of this anime and the manga, obviously, is that Haruba Negi immediately establishes that there's one winner. You know, we know now that the main character ends up with one girl, which is so cool, because sometimes, a lot of the time in romance animes, it's like, it's left to the very end. Or even sometimes, like, for example, there's this anime called We Never Learn, where at the end it's left ambiguous, and then the mangaka wrote an ending for each of the characters so that everybody could be happy. So no one really loses. It's whatever your headcanon is, right? And that is really cool. You know, it keeps the fans happy. It's very fan oriented. I think I just resonated with this decision a lot more, because from the get-go, I was invested. There was like this mystery now. Like I kept thinking like, oh, cool. So now that we know one of them wins, what are the little breadcrumbs that he's left us that show us who the winner could be? At times it honestly felt like a mystery manga where you're trying to pick the pieces together and trying to discover, oh, that character did that. That means that she's probably closer now. Or that character did that, this, that. And then all of a sudden you naturally gravitate towards one of the girls. For me personally, it was Miku. She's straight heat. Throughout the entire anime, the scenes she has with Futaro are so adorable. Every time she calls out Futaro, it's just, it hits you in the heart, and it's just, she's an amazing character, you know. But by the end of it, you literally fall in love with all of them. All these characters have so much depth to them. All 5 of them, you know, Ichika, Nino, Miku, Yotsuba, Itsuki. All of them have such great scenes with Futaro, and vice versa. He has great scenes with them. But even though I had like my favorite out of the 5, because of the way he wrote it, because of the way he developed the story, it was never certain. There was never an obvious pick. You know, there was never an obvious pick. Every time I thought, oh, it's obviously Miku, there would be another moment with Nino or Yotsuba or Itsuki or Ichika where I was like, oh, it could be her. Oh, she did something there that it could be her. It could be her. And there was this constant back and forth that created this, I don't know, like at the edge of your seat, like who could it be? Who could it be? And that made it really, personally made it really enjoyable for me. And I had such a great time with the anime as well as the movie that came after it. To really double back to the anime, whoever cast the voice actors literally deserves a raise. They did such a phenomenal job. It brought the characters to life. So much so even Haruba Negi, he didn't expect Nino to be so popular. Yeah, and he credits a lot of it to the voice actress that portrayed Nino, Taketatsu Ayana. All 5 of them are voiced to perfection. one thing that was really cool that they did was form a group and sing the OPs as well as the EDs, I'm pretty sure. It's just stuff like that when I was watching that I was like, okay, there's genuine care there. There's genuine love for the characters, the source material, the way the vibrant colors, the pacing of it all was just such a joy to see unfold, and personally made my experience of watching it so much fun. The character arcs are so beautifully portrayed. From Futaro, from being a loner and being only focused on studying, him finding joy in teaching, and him finding more of a family, more friends in these 5 girls, you know, and eventually finding the one he really loves. It's such a great character arc. Or the girls finding themselves throughout the TV show and having these individual moments with him that are so goddamn adorable. It just makes it such a great watch overall that it's so good. It's so good. Right before the spoilers, another aspect I really enjoyed about watching this show in particular was because I was watching it with my siblings and we all were rooting for different characters. There was this real cool experience where there were different theories, and it was just really cool to see how we each took the story and how we each understood it and everything. I guess overall, to be TLDR, the most basic, all my ramblings condensed into one, it's a great show. That's it. Beautiful art, beautiful characters, and just a fun time. You know, the world is gonna shit outside, so just put on a nice wholesome anime and enjoy yourself, you know what I mean? But right before the video finishes, spoilers. So click away. Spoilers. Are you gone? Good. In 3, 2, 1. What a finale. I loved it. But I think my only gripe with it is probably the pacing. I think when they added in the biological father, things got a little messy. Like, granted, it gave Itsuki and the sisters, as well as mainly Itsuki and the stepdad, a great character moment, you know, where they all came together. But I still felt that it felt a little rushed at times, and literally the biological dad was... I didn't care about him at all, you know. I reckon a 3rd full season would have solved a lot of the pacing issues that plagued this movie. But besides that, I loved the movie, to no one's surprise. Probably one of my favorite scenes is definitely the final choice scene, you know, when Futaro's walking and there's so much anticipation, my heart was pounding. Who could it be? You know, he opens the door, there's all 5 of them react, and you're like, okay, who could it be? And then one by one, you're like, it can't be her, it can't be her, it can't be her. And then, the saddest scene ever is when Miku opens the door, sees Nino, and is like, it's over, it's painful, it hurts me, and I'm still not over it. But then you finally see the drink. And Futaro says, yo. And then you're like, oh shit, it's her. And at first, yes, there's pain for sure. But then as you see the backstory and how he's chasing after her, how she's the one that inspired him to work hard with the 100 yen promise. She wants to prove that her existence is worth it. And after seeing her sisters sacrifice themselves for her, she devoted herself completely to them. And throughout the show, you would see how she would break her back trying to support the people around her, whether it be her sisters or the people at school. She couldn't say no. And then Futaro, lying on the grass, finally grabs her leg and then says, you supported me, and I want to be that support for you. And that's when you start realizing, oh my goodness, yes, back at the camp arc, she supported him. She would always say, no regrets. Whenever the sisters would have a fight, she would be this mediator. And that's when you start seeing the threads. Back in season 1, she was the first one to say, I like you. Although she said she was kidding, we know she wasn't. I think another example is that Futaro sees a lot of himself in her. For example, when the girls wanted to be part of his group in the Kyoto camping trip, Yotsuba was the first one to drop out to give them a chance, you know? And I feel like that reminded Futaro of his own past, where 6 years prior, he dropped out of his own group because he wanted to give his 2 friends, who obviously liked each other, an opportunity to spend time together. She also was the one to hold his ring finger back at the campfire ages ago. And then you realize, yeah, it makes sense why she kissed him under the bell, because that was the only opportunity to admit her feelings without hurting anybody else. They were all dressed like Itsuki, so she wasn't hurting her sisters by staying true to her feelings. And this one's a stretch, but Futaro's cowlicks, as well as her ribbon, is like, you know, reminiscent of each other. And yeah, you can find connections and make an argument for the 4 other girls. You can find threads that link all of them, you know? I can justify why Miku's the right choice, for sure. But that's what good romances do. You know, you can see Futaro ending up with any 5 of them and he'd be happy, for sure. Any of the girls ending up with him, they'd be happy 100%. You know, but I love that Haruma Negi chose one, justified his choice. And when I look back, I can definitely see the thread that connects the 2 of them together. And by the end, I really liked them together. And after all the backstory, the flashbacks, Yotsuba finally accepts her feelings and says, I love you. I loved seeing the completion of the individual characters' arcs throughout the time skip, you know? Ichika goes on to be the famous actor, and also calms Futaro's nerves when he's doubtful about Yotsuba's answer, which is in direct contrast to an earlier decision she made. And then you have Miku, who at the start of the show was so reserved, didn't like herself, to now finally chucking Yotsuba's ribbon and saying, I like who I am now. And then Nino, in her own way, pushing Yotsuba to admit how much she likes Futaro, which is perfectly in character because earlier she even says, it doesn't matter if I lose, whoever wins, I'll support them. And now Nino and Miku, who would always bicker, and Miku, who didn't even know how to cook, is now running a bakery in the building that belonged to Futaro's mum. Itsuki getting into university, following her dream, believing in herself, becoming a teacher, regardless of what people say. And I loved seeing Yotsuba finally just get what she wants, you know, get what she always wanted. Seeing how strong the connection between all of them became just felt really cathartic. And it all ended beautifully at the wedding when they played the final Quintuplets game and Futaro guessed every single one of them perfectly because now there's love. Yes, you might think the movie's shit and the ending's horrible, and yeah, the movie does have its problems, but the story made me feel, and I don't want to say bye to these characters. It's just a wonderful story about love, family, and finding yourself that I really, really enjoyed. Well, that's it for my ramble. If you stuck around, that's pretty dope, but let me know what you guys thought about the Quints, and other than that, well, thank you again for watching, and I will see you all in whatever video is next. I don't know.